Tuesday the 12th of March was a busy evening for us council watchers. Karina and Cheryl went along to Colchester Council to the scrutiny panel to support Terry and Brian having their say. Meanwhile, I had slipped into Suffolk to go and support the people of Sudbury, who had invited me to come along to their full council meeting. It was very eventful, to say the least. So much so, I think it deserves its own episode. So in this episode, we're just going to feature the Have Your Says from the Colchester Scrutiny Panel. First up was Martin Pugh, once again holding the council to account over the Middlewick Ranges. For those of you that are new to the channel and don't know the area, the Middlewick Ranges is an area of MOD land that has been put on the local plan, which means it can be developed for building. Now, the Middlewick Ranges is of extremely significant importance for wildlife. It's a rare acidic grassland and it should not be developed. And the councillors did not get a crucial letter explaining the importance of the site before they voted to include it last minute on the local plan. So a lot of local residents feel this was done in an underhanded way and slipped in a fashion that shouldn't have been. So I'm just going to play a short clip of the most crucial things that were said.
We had a very strong development bias from the very beginning. A councillor who would soon become mayor in 2016 said the development of Middlewick must go ahead. It sounds very definitive. Bearing in mind that was before any of the data came through. So we've had the presumption for development, we've had the unsound ecological assessments, which have been roundly debunked by the top naturalists in Essex and the UK. We've had overlooking regulatory and environmental procedures, legislation, MPPF guidelines. So I think there's a lot for the scrutiny committee to dig into, is that it seems as if many procedures were broken in launching Middlewick on the local plan at the last minute. For that reason, I hope you can understand our frustration that the council is now insisting on every procedure being applied to by the letter, a process which will take 2 years, when really there should be an urgent intervention to remove Middlewick from the local plan. But
bearing in mind, in terms of an inspector having passed that as sound, he would have seen that letter, and actually he's more qualified than anybody that works in our organisation to be able to make that decision.
We've taken advice, we've shared that advice, we have not done anything we should not have done. And by going to a third party to have that attested, we hope to give some confidence. We have to follow due process. We set in place very robust protections.
So once again, it appears it's nobody's fault. Certainly not at Colchester. No, definitely not their fault. A small point that they seem to be failing to grasp, though, is that had the councillors known about the contents of that letter, a significant proportion probably wouldn't have voted to include the Middlewick Ranges on the local plan. So it doesn't matter whether the inspectorate thinks it's fine, the councillors themselves wouldn't have done, so this wouldn't have got passed. But I'm sure the Save Middlewick Ranges group will continue to keep their pressure up, because we all know you shouldn't be developing an area that's got over 200 endangered species of bird and one that was thought to be extinct. They know it's wrong, and so do we.
I'm going to move on. I see two more members of the public who wish to have their say. I see a Mr. Terry Charles.
It was asked of council who had considered dissenting information with respect to the declaration of a climate emergency. In respect of that, only a single councillor raised their arm. Now, I appreciate that the head of this committee has agreed to scrutinise this decision, though to be fair, that offer has been made on the basis of a re-election. Though I wish the councillor well with his forthcoming trial, I do not believe that this is a proper manner in which a scrutiny panel should act. A decision has been made by council. It is clear from a raft of communication via freedom of information requests and a showing of a single hand that the decision made that day was one which evidences clear bias and should be rendered invalid under scrutiny, as it clearly meets the standard of predetermination under the Localism Act of 2011. So, political promises aside, will this panel act in accordance with the legislation, set aside the declaration and support a proper public debate where all evidence may be given due consideration? I also want to touch on last year's scrutiny meeting dated 14th of November 2023. I attended that meeting and I spoke, and I asked a question: when are the council going to acknowledge the concerns of the public and agree to the request to the council holding a full public meeting? Councillor King, who has attended that meeting as well, kindly suggested that my colleagues and I meet with him during that particular meeting, to which we accepted his kind offer. During the meeting, Councillor King agreed in theory to a full public meeting. Sadly, here we are, fast approaching 6 months since that meeting, and it appears that we are no closer to this full public meeting. And I'm nearly finished. As someone who works in the community, I can confirm through the many conversations I have had that public discontent continues to grow. And eventually, hundreds of thousands and more of the public will be demanding change. Now, are you going to allow this discontent to continue, or are you going to listen to the concerns of your constituents and act upon them? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry Charles, for having your say. I'll respond briefly, and then I'm going to look and see if the leader wants to come in. So firstly, obviously, you're here in front of scrutiny tonight. It is the Cabinet, the executive, that sets the strategic objectives of this authority. The motion that was described about climate emergency that full council voted on, awkward about that raising the hands thing with it was that many members in that room weren't actually there for that vote. So it was a clumsy mechanic, and one that I don't think we can take too seriously, because, as I say, not everyone was in that room. To reiterate what I said in the previous scrutiny session, subsequent to my re-election in May, to the views of the panel, if they are minded, and if I'm in this chair again, I am happy that we have a conversation about net zero in this forum. Now, this forum can then, if it so wishes, make some recommendations to Cabinet. The Cabinet is ultimately the executive. They set the strategic priorities of this authority. So if Cabinet wants a climate emergency and getting this authority down to net zero as a top 5 priority, it's up to them to call. It's not me, because I'm in a minority party. I'm in opposition. So I'm giving you an olive tree that I'm happy that we had the conversation in this forum. Leader, do you want to jump in now?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I, of course, do remember our conversation, and I'm sure you remember I gave you a fair slice of time at my own expense, and I did it freely because I was interested to see what was driving you and colleagues. And so I'll just, for the record, say, yes, I did say that if you, and I left it with yourselves respectfully, to come back with your sense of how any wider public conversation could be structured, because we agreed it would have to be structured to have weight and meaning. It couldn't be a one-way dialogue. It would have to be a gathering of people who had some knowledge and understanding and an audience, and there'd have to be some rules and process. And we had a conversation around that. So as far as I'm concerned, that's still on the table, subject to the practicalities. However, you've been offered an olive tree, which would be quite nice offering, you should take it. The branch, certainly, which was an attempt by the chair to sort of you and some of your colleagues feel very strongly about this, and I only respect that offer. Let's see where we can go with either of the two alternatives. But let me just sort of go back to the beginning of your conversation. I absolutely would not accept, based on my understanding of law, that in a sense, predetermination when it comes to a full council meeting and a debate around issues of the day. Full council decides for itself what it thinks on the evidence that's available to it. As the chair says, that, of course, in that sense, is down to Cabinet. But we reflect on these matters, the will of full council, which I, for the moment, have to say to you is settled.
Do you have a minute to respond to that?
Yeah, Councillor King, I hear you. We're only getting one side of the debate, and there's many experienced people in the field that have got the opposite viewpoint regarding said climate emergency. They need to be heard, and until they're heard, there's going to be people that's going to be questioning, let's just say, the narrative behind all of this. And I don't want to be suspicious, but until both sides are heard, I will be suspicious, because I'm a critical thinker, and I tend to think, well, okay, reassure me, and that's all I'm asking for, and that's been much what I think most of the public are asking for, some reassurance that both sides of the debate are being heard, and at the moment they're not. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, for your time tonight. You've had your say, and I think you've heard that there is still a door open to this. We've just got to find a way of formalising a mechanics that can be done. I'm going to invite now Brian Rees to come to the stage, and you know the format, but we won't begin until the red light is on.
In November, 3 of us met with David regarding a public discovery meeting. I've heard numerous admissions that council and public office holders serve the public, that everything is owned by the public, and that everything that is done is focused on the public interest. Colchester Council's track record shows a growing list of unanswered questions, evasive responses, and blatantly ignoring us rather than providing direct acknowledgement. Apart from promises of public meeting, there's been no action. The delay in scheduling suggests a strategy of ignoring the issue in hopes it will fade away. Well, we're not going away, and we will be looking to hold people accountable. So I guess the question is, what is the problem here? What is stopping you from organising it? We've provided all the details and offered all assistance in arranging it. I can only assume that the council, they do not want to engage with the public, that you do not want to hold a public meeting, properly examine matters. So, otherwise, we should be moved forward already. It's been nearly 6 months. So enough of the flannel, Colchester Council. Here are 2 dates, May the 16th, May the 23rd. Which one would council prefer? Thank you.
I'm not quite sure the date will mean.
The meeting.
You've just propose two dates arbitrarily. I mean,
Push things forward. So I'm offering, let's move forward.
I think the leader has heard, the door is open, and just to assure you, I want that debate, okay? I want to know where my batteries are coming from and the impact that that's having on landscapes where those precious metals are from. So there's no evasion from me whatsoever. I really want that debate. At the same time, I want clean air for my children to breathe. So, everything in life is about balance, isn't it? But I want a debate. I don't think you're meeting resistance. You're certainly not meeting a strategic evasive strategy here. The leader's door is open. We've got to find a way of facilitating that debate. And the other thing, of course, I will say is you've still got time. Anyone listening, anyone watching, you've still got time to put your name on a ballot paper for the local elections that are coming up in May. I am, name down. And then if I'm returned here in May, I then get to go into the full council chamber, and I do get to have a say and put my hand up on things that I care about. If I want, I can put forward a motion.
It has been 5 months since our small meeting.
Leader.
I want to repeat what I said before, Brian. We're in the same conversation, and I think between us, our recollections aren't that different. What you need to do, my email address, unfortunately, gets lots of correspondence, but you can come to me or the chief executive. And I'll put back to you the challenge I said last time, which was you need to give your sense of the structure.
We've done it already.
Then I haven't seen it. Send it to me. My promise is I will talk both to the chair of scrutiny, because actually, let's not forget, you've had, in whatever tightened circumstances it might be, not perhaps your ideal model, you've had an offer, an olive branch. And it was genuine. I didn't spend my time with you for wasting yours or mine.
Appreciate that, but you had the email within a few days.
Well,
so
look, let's try and move on. You send to me what you think was your response. My promise publicly is I'll come back to you. I've spoken to the chief executive and others about how such an arrangement could be made. We have a busy life, with every respect to you.
David, are you saying you didn't get the email?
I am saying I've not had an email and I've not had that email around how we might, from your perspective, shape such a meeting, because I was very clear that only if we could do that could we carry that forward.
Yeah, we absolutely agreed with that.
Okay, well, look, wait for you, and then I hope you won't have to wait too long for me.
We're going to resend it again tomorrow.
Yeah, copy me actually But Brian, it might be worth just and so we're on record. Very occasionally does happen. If you're sending an email from hotmail.co.uk, for example, they get filtered, and it might be that is a reason why it hasn't got through. I'm just
copy the whole panel in, because I don't miss emails ever. So copy us all in. All right.
Yeah. Leader, copy every member in. All our email addresses are public, and I'm sure it will land. Okay, you're pushing an open door.
Just in case another email mysteriously goes disappearing, this is the public meeting proposal that we put together with climate scientists Ralph Ellis and Peter Taylor. For balance, as requested by the Council, we invite members of the Green Party to put forward their own two experts. All the speakers must have evidence-based presentations and not rely on opinion or computer modelling, which has yet to prove reliable. Sir Ralph Ellis has had peer-reviewed papers written, ice ages and weather patterns and the cooling and warming periods of the Earth. Peter Taylor's qualifications in bio read like War and Peace, but the long and the short of it, he's been an advisor to the European Commission, the European Parliament, the United Nations, International Maritime Organisation, as well as Greenpeace International, trade unions and the media, and set up a consultancy company specialising in terrestrial and marine ecosystems and pollution policy, helping to initiate and develop the precautionary principle and clean production strategies at the UN. So he's ridiculously overqualified to come and speak at Colchester Council, but yet he is willing. So we haven't just plucked two people off a bus late at night. They are actual, genuine climate scientists with much experience in the field, and they are thoroughly looking forward to debating with any so-called expert that you can find. So I will do the Sudbury video as soon as I can, because it was certainly a rowdy evening, and the locals really voiced their concerns over the stupidity of some of the decisions the council are making. So it definitely deserves its own episode, but I suspect the next episode coming up will be Karina, because tonight she's going back to the full cabinet to have her say on 5G. It would appear they told her some porky pies last time she was in there, and thanks to the guys at Gloucester, Stephen and Matthew, we've got some extra information that we didn't have before. So Karina will be sharing that with the council in her own inimitable way. Until next time, bye-bye.